And CBS News Chief Washington correspondent and Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson joins us now from Washington. So, John, I want to talk about health care in a minute, but first I want to discuss the major shakeup in the West Wing. With Reince Priebus out and John Kelly in, how would you characterize the current state of the White House?
Well, it's destabilized. Now, we don't really know the current state of affairs, because if the president recognizes the problems in the White House and has installed new people to solve the specific problems, then the state of affairs may actually be improving. If this is only going to layer over people and exacerbate the underlying problems by getting people in who enable the president rather than restraining him, as all presidents need to be restrained, then the White House is headed for more trouble. So we don't really know, and we won't know really until a couple of weeks out and we see how things may have changed.
Well, John Kelly starts his new job as chief of staff on Monday. Do we have any sense at all, John, whether he'll be able to restore order in the White House?
Well, restoring order from a chief of staff has two big components. The first is limiting the number of people who can get in the room, which is to say the Oval Office, making sure that the systems and the orderly way things are supposed to proceed actually proceed along an orderly path. The reason that matters is a president can't improvise when there's an enormous executive branch hooked up to him. There are a lot of people whose days and weeks are determined by a plan that they have, and the president is unaware of those plans because he's kind of busy. What happens is when a president improvises, he knocks all those plans aside and creates chaos, and it ripples throughout the executive branch. This has been true of all White Houses. So when you have lots of people able to get access to the president, it causes those kinds of messy overturning of strategy. So the number of people who get access to the president and get access to convince him to take a different course than the structure of the way things are running has suggested, that has to stop. The other thing that has to happen is you have to, as a chief of staff, be able to have some influence over the man in the room. That is to say, the president. Tell him no when he needs to be told no, and make him do things that are in the interest of the larger project that he may personally not be very excited about. If those two things cannot be done, then chaos will continue to be something that they're bumping into a lot.
Well, this past week saw a major failure on the legislative front for Senate Republicans. They were unable to pass a health care bill, and the president is not happy about it. Sunday morning, he tweeted, quote, "Don't give up, Republican senators. The world is watching. Repeal and replace and go to 51 votes, nuke option, get cross state lines and more." John, what is he referring to there? And is there a chance Senate Republicans will listen?
Well, what the president's referring to there is two things that he's been a big fan of. One is his larger health care plan, or the larger set of health care proposals. What he's talking about selling health care across state lines instead of selling it just by the regulations of each individual state. The idea there is there's more competition. If I can go get a plan from a different state, the plans in my state will feel that competition and lower their prices. This is trying to use the market to drive down premiums and deductibles. Some of that is allowed. There are a lot of skeptics about how much savings that will create. But nevertheless, what the president is arguing for is a more robust health care package. The reason they were unable to pass a robust health care package is in the Senate, they were trying to do it with only Republican senators. A fuller health care package requires 60 votes because of the rules of the Senate. That means you need at least 8 Democrats. They're not going to get 8 Democrats, probably, unless it's a truly bipartisan bill, and in which case they'd need more than 8 because you'll lose a bunch of Republican senators. So what the president is arguing is do the bigger bill and change the rules of the Senate to make it pass simply with a majority, which is to say get rid of the filibuster. Mitch McConnell has said he will not do that, but we'll see how if he maintains that stance going forward.
Well, relations between the president and Senate Republicans seem to be deteriorating. John, how will that affect the president's legislative agenda moving forward?
Well, it depends what the president's legislative agenda is moving forward. If he chooses to take a new route, you could imagine an improvisational president with a lot of kind of risk-taking qualities, throwing up the way legislation is created in Washington these days, building coalitions of Democrats and Republicans, and really changing the kind of way of doing business. If he's not, now, if he does that, he's going to have to get, he might get legislative victories, but the content of the legislation would be quite different than what he might want. It would require compromise. It would require working with Democrats. If he doesn't do that, just scolding Republicans more did not work on when it came to health care. And so if he's just going to do that more and more loudly, I'm not sure that's a route to success.
All right, John Dickerson in Washington. John, thanks.
Thanks, Elaine.